Hey, what's going on? So I'm coming at you from Traverse City, Michigan, right outside Traverse City, closer to Empire Beach. Really beautiful sunset place. I don't know if you can see. I'll try to get you a shot of it. The sun is like obscured by smoke. It's been like that for the last couple days, and so we've basically. It's weird. It's just such a weird deal because it's putting a weird color in the sky. What's surprising to me about it is we're in Michigan, so pretty far east, and still getting smoke from out west. So pretty wild. Today, Epiphone, Les Paul Standard, fourth set of strings, and today we're going to talk about string tension. For those of you that are new to this, for those of you that are new to guitar playing too, we're going to talk a little bit about string tension, and we're going to break it down. There's three main factors to string tension: the string gauge, the scale length, and the pitch. So we're going to talk about how that is all interactive. I'm going to show you when you change some of that stuff, how it changes the other thing, and how it changes the overall playability and feel of the guitar. And as we put the strings on this Epiphone Les Paul today, that's what we're going to do. First things first, let's get the strings off this guitar. Three factors to string tension: scale length, pitch, and gauge of strings. So first of all, we'll take these one at a time. First of all, we got scale length. So this is a Les Paul scale length. Most Gibson products are 24.75 inches in scale. And we're not saying metric stuff because this is how they measure it here. Just telling you. You can Google it, you can convert it just like I convert it. Scale length, what is that? That is the distance from where the nut, on the inside of the nut where it breaks over here, to the inside of the saddle where it breaks over here. What I call the tonal area of the guitar. Everything outside of that has much less of an effect on the sound of the guitar. This is the business area of the guitar, from the nut to the saddle. Now on a Fender guitar, that's going to be 25.5 inches. What does that extra 3/4 of an inch make much difference? Well, the further you have to span a string, so the longer the scale length, the further you have to go, the tighter you have to pull it to maintain a certain pitch. So on this high E string, on a 24/75 scale, to keep it at the high E pitch, like when you tune it up to pitch, you have to pull on it harder the longer the scale length is. So this shorter scale length 24.75 inch guitar will have kind of a slinkier feel. The string will have less overall tension on it if it's the same gauge of string and if it's at the same pitch, but we shorten the scale length. It's going to feel flexier. It's going to feel lower tension because it doesn't take as much tension to stretch it to that pitch. Now, if we go to a 24.7 or a 25.5 inch scale like on a Fender, it's going to give all other factors the same, the pitch as well as the string gauge. It's going to feel tighter. It's going to feel a little bit tighter, and that in turn, and this is my biggest thing, changes how you interact with the guitar. Does it change the tone? Actually, yes. It makes a big difference because the way a string vibrates is not it's not up and down in a straight line. It's got this weird transverse wave where when you pick it, it like flips down the string and then comes back. The longer the string is, the longer those nodes are, and where that interacts with where the pickups cross the string can change the tone a lot. And so a scale length change is a big difference. You know, that's why people, when they get in these stupid conversations in Facebook groups and stuff about like putting humbuckers in a Telecaster, well, you might as well just get a Les Paul. No, the scale length is different. It completely changes everything because of the nodes on the string. They're in a totally different place. It's totally different. Scale length is a huge factor in the difference in tone, for example, between a Telecaster with humbuckers in it and a Les Paul. That's why, among many other reasons, they can never really sound the same. The biggest factor for me with scale length is how you interact with the guitar. I've said this in many videos, is that guitar setup and how the guitar feels in your hand is the number one factor in your tone, is why you sound like you, why you don't sound like Jimmy Page no matter how much you try, why you don't sound like Eddie Van Halen no matter how much you try, and what you spend your money on. You're going to sound like you because it's the physical interaction of your hands with your guitar. And string tension, scale length being a big one on that, is probably the number one, to me, the number one factor in what shapes you as a guitar player, as your tone, is that interaction with your hands and with the guitar. So of course there's many other things, neck thickness and fret height and all that stuff, but it's literally how you interact with it. Scale length is a huge one in it. Okay, let's get some strings on this thing, and we're going to talk about factor number 2 of string tension. All right, so we've got the second set of strings, or the fourth set of strings on there. I don't know what they are. We'll give you a sound sample in a few minutes. I haven't stretched them or tuned it or anything. I just threw them on there for our conversation. So, second part of string tension is string gauge itself. If you're going to stretch something from point A to point B, and it's thicker, obviously you're going to have to pull on it tighter. If it's got more mass, you're going to have to pull on it tighter to get it to the same tension, or to the same pitch. So, for example, a 10 gauge string on the low E, for example, is going to be about 17 pounds of pressure. And if you go up to a 10, go up to an 11, which would give you like a 52 up here, then you're going to go from 17 pounds to like 21 pounds, something like that. Overall tension on the entire guitar, what is it going to come up about? Just shy of 20 pounds if you go up a gauge or two. And so the higher the gauge, the heavier it's going to feel under your hands. Why would somebody want to do that? Well, it's all about playing style. And the other thing too is it's all about scale length. You may want to run 9s on a Fender guitar and 10s on a Gibson guitar, because as we talked about, the other factor in string tension is scale length. So if you have a longer scale length guitar, you might want to run one set lighter. On a shorter scale length guitar, you might want to run one set heavier, because you're trying to get even feel between both guitars. You may not be that picky. I'm not that picky. I put 10s on everything and I just don't care, and I just play it the way it is, and I like the difference in the feel between guitars. However, some people like that. When we talk about string gauge, there are some companies doing like a balanced tension string. What we mean by that is because the E string is a different pitch than the B string, they're a little bit different weight, right? So like on a 10 gauge set, the E string is a 10 and the B string is a 13. Well, what if you raise the tension, because this string tension is higher, and we'll get to pitch in a minute, they may not be the exact same tension, even though one's thicker and then it's compensated by pitch, you know what I mean? So they will actually change the gauge of the string to even out the tension between the strings. They're called balanced tension sets. And sometimes they'll use different shape cores to vary the tension, because they're trying to change the mass over the distance so that they can get the correct tension, that sort of stuff. And that is an option for some people too that are very picky about the evenness of the tension across all 6 strings, because you're varying the gauge of the string to get the different pitches over the same exact scale length. See what I'm saying? So it's those 3 factors again. I'll leave some links in the description of the video to some various different balanced tension sets and a couple of little experimental things, different hex style cores and stuff like that make the string feel different and try to keep that tension a little bit more even. But we'll put that in the description below. All right, let's talk about the third factor to string tension, and that is pitch. All right, so before we go into pitch, I just want to mention a couple things. If you're new to the channel, it's not usually this windy, number one. And this is a guitar channel. We talk all about guitar stuff, just like this. We do it a couple times a week. We have a live show on Thursdays. I hope you dig it. We're getting close to 45,000 subscribers. When we hit 50,000, we're actually going to give this guitar away. And we're actually going to give another guitar away too, two to give away at the same time, because 50,000 is kind of a big deal. If you're new to the channel, every 10,000 subscribers I give away a guitar. But I figured 50,000, and I've got two right now that I don't need, that I'd rather give to you. So when we hit 50,000, we're going to give away two guitars. Of course, they're going to have cool upgraded pickups, and we're going to make a project out of them, I think. As soon as we hit 45,000, we're going to start talking about the project that this guitar will become and the wiring changes and different. But I didn't want to change anything until we got done with this string test. So just hang in there. I think one more video after this one, and then we will get into like changing out pickups and doing all kinds of fun stuff with this guitar. So make sure you stay subscribed and hit the bell and all that kind of stuff. The other thing too is we have Patreon. That is really cool. Classes once a month. Really breaks this stuff down, and it's interactive. You get to bring your guitar, be a part of it. It's all online, of course. It's super fun. And some other stuff going on with that. So check out patreon.com/DylanTalksTone. Here are all the folks that are a part of it right now. I really appreciate you all, and I just want to keep giving you guys shout outs in the videos. I think it's really cool. So thank you so much. So there you are. All right, so string tension part 3 is going to be pitch. As you can tell, this is obviously is all interactive, right? So if we have a longer scale length, we have to have a higher string tension to get the same pitch. We could offset that string tension by lowering our pitch. So for example, if we don't like how hard the guitar is to play, or the string tension is too high, we could tune the thing down a half a step to E flat. We could tune it down a whole step to E. We could tune, or to D. So we could compensate for that, but just remember that every time we lower the tuning, we lower the string tension if everything else stays the same. So what about guys that want to run like alternate tunings? So I've done setups on guitars for guys that wanted to go like a drop B. So basically they would tune the entire guitar down a whole step. So this E would then become a D, and everything would go down a whole step, okay? And then the low E would then become a B. So actually it'd be C, be a drop C with a low B. I've had it go way, way down. I mean, that's really, really low. The problem is, it's not really a problem, but the thing that happens as we change the pitch is the tension drops. So then the strings get all floppy and gross, and you start to play it and it's all rattly and stuff. And you can say, well, I'll just raise the truss rod a little bit. But then the problem is the action gets so high that it's hard to play the stuff that those drop B guys want to play, right? So what do? We raise the string tension by raising the gauge. Our pitch has gone so low that we can't compensate for it simply by an adjustment. So at that point, like at a drop B, you want to go to a higher string gauge so that you can run the lower pitch. You see how you have to compensate all of this stuff? And actually that was on an ESP, the last time I did it was on an ESP guitar, which actually looked like a Les Paul, but it was a 25.5-inch scale. So a little bit longer scale, larger string gauge, lower pitch. And then the string tension worked out to be about the same, and the guitar was playable. And remember that on your longer scale guitars, that will actually make more of a difference than on your shorter scale guitars, because this is all a proportion. Everything is a proportion. String gauge, pitch, and scale length is all pulling on each other, and it's all a proportion. So keep those things in mind. Scale length, the longer, the higher the string tension. String gauge, the higher the string tension. The pitch, the higher the tension, and you can compensate one with the other. I guess the weed whacker means that it's time that we're done. Let's go inside and play this thing and get our string samples for the week. Well, there you go. There is set number 4. For those of you that are not familiar, we're doing 5 sets in a row. I don't know what they are. Leslie just hands them to me, and I'm testing them for a week. And the set that we had on there just now, I hated. Barely even played it. Couldn't stand it. I think it's Elixirs. Didn't like how they felt. These ones, first impression, they're just guitar strings. But we'll play it for a week. We'll throw the next set on, and then in the next video, we're actually going to do the like which ones were my favorites, etc., etc. You should have just seen the first 4 sets in a row. Let me know what your favorites are based on just what you heard. Obviously, you can't feel them, but anyway. And for all of you who keep getting in the comments and say my guitar's out of tune, I tune it between every take, and the intonation on the guitar is good, and the setup actually is fantastic, and it has not been varying between sets. So I don't know if you got to get your ears tuned or what, but anyway, there is that. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button, and let me know what else you want to see on this here guitar channel. I guess we will see you on Thursday at the live show. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.